go. Let's go. Here we go.
Let's go. Let's go already. Here we go.
About 40 minutes.
This is 2OF Entertainment.
Well, here we go. It's the man that promises you nothing and delivers. It's the veritable man motor mouth. It's Roald Woods who feels the need to call himself Rob Vega. It somehow makes him feel important. Anyway, do have a listen and try not to throw up.
And we are here. Well, look at you doing the Donald Trump jerk off. I like it. There you go. That's nice.
I'm dancing to that incredible music.
Yeah. You know, we can splurge for more music if you like. You get, you know. I will tell you that everybody likes your intro to the Habana Saturday show.
Thank you.
They all love that. And the way David cut it, it's like on Saturdays, blah blah blah. And then there's this pause of music for like 5 seconds, and at the very end it goes on Saturdays. And I said to them, we paid extra for that Saturday, just so everybody's clear. So, you know, there you go. And we don't have the commercial here, but there's a Donald Trump commercial that we ran on it. That's he says everybody's going to go back to calling everybody fags and retards.
Incredible.
Yep. So where to start? I see Donnie's been busy this week.
Okay, I'm gonna preempt this with the following, and then we'll get into where my thought process was about what we're going to talk about and how it got derailed by myself.
Okay.
Because I fight with myself regularly. You should try that.
Well, if you're schizophrenic, it's like so am I. So.
I can recommend it. I recommend it, Stephen. I recommend it. All right.
There you go.
So I began with this idea. I thought to myself, I heard it said many years ago. I don't know if I got the bottom two right, but it's something like this. Small people, small-minded people talk about other people. Right? Average-minded people talk about stuff, things. Yeah. And great-minded people talk about ideas.
Oh, that's what we do on all our shows. We talk about ideas of how stupid the small people are.
Right. So that was where I started. Now, I thought to myself, I was thinking about things like God, the narcissist, and I went, okay, we'll leave that for another time.
Sure.
Okay. That's another topic. I've got it there. It's on my list.
Okay.
And then I started and I thought, I want to talk about some ideas, maybe some hypothetical. And then I began with this whole, what if we just got rid of things? You mentioned the Don, and I thought, let's have a look at some of the things he wants to get rid of. Things that offend him, things that are problematic in terms of his worldview. And I thought, I'm going to be a dick about it. I'm going to consider what he doesn't like. What could be a problem. Right? And I started and I went down. I actually came up with 20 things. There were a ton more. And then I eventually got to a topic. Here we go. So I started with things like, what if there was no NATO? What if there was no World Health Organization, no justice, no EU, no media, no internet, no cars, no overpaid people, no money, no governments, no laws, no countries, no computers, no borders, etc. And I thought, that's actually too. So here's where I got to. I thought, let's get to the heart of it. Because what you mentioned, Donnie, and I'm trying to take him, I'm trying to embrace him in an objective and potentially comic way,
non-homosexual way. So
I don't mind. I'm a strong man. I don't care. It doesn't bother me.
Okay.
I'll wear pink and tights. In fact, when I for my 50th, I actually had a shirt made that said "moist porn dongle." The three words I could think of, and they were written in the rainbow. The LGBT.
Sure.
And I wore purple hair and heels, and no one had a clue.
A Friday night for you. Okay, I got it. Okay.
You've come to the show, right? Okay. No one had a clue how to talk to me, and I was doing it as an exercise to just see how people look at, what they see and how they create biases
Right.
and completely get the wrong idea. I just wanted to test the waters. I like you. I like to test the waters because,
Sure.
well, the waters are pretty muddy right now. So here comes my topic, and
Okay.
you're gonna like this. So my topic, after all that blur around the mulberry bush, what am I gonna do? I thought,
Yeah.
here we go. How about this? Because I love America. I love the concept of America. I love what it's about.
Right.
But I obviously have my own view of how it works on the planet because it's literally a piece of the planet. It belongs. Oh my God!
You love America. I'm just trying to give you that little bit of 4th of July. There you go.
Thank you,
You're welcome.
But I've always felt that the strength of America, as I've said to you before, are the immigrants, the variety of people, the variety of food, the variety of talent, skills, cultures. It's fantastic. It is the United States. It's brilliant. I love it. And I've never said it was perfect, but human beings are not perfect. We don't want to be perfect. I hate perfection. Perfection is horrible. Perfection is boring. It's bullshit. It doesn't matter. You can aspire to something. Right. So I've always felt a concept that it embodies the good side of humanity, or the possibility of humanity. We've had this conversation. So you've obviously got a guy there now who wants to cut all these ties. And I thought to myself, all right,
Elon,
what if America literally cut itself off from the rest of the world? And that comes to my question, which is the top. Does America actually need, and in all seriousness, does it actually need, right now, does it need any other country? Does it really? And I'm not asking that flippantly. Does it actually need, there might be some bumps along the way, but what if all those walls were put in place? What if all these, because it looks like Don doesn't want to work with any of his allies. He would love to suck certain people's appendages. And he seems to be quite cozy with some problematic people in the world, and he's very argumentative with what used to be allies. So I'm thinking, all right, let's go with that. So he's creating new alliances with what people used to call the enemy. Is that a good thing? I'm genuinely asking that because it seems like he's trying to form some superpower alliance of chasing all the allies away. And I'm asking in all sincerity, is that, where's that going to go? What does that look like? I mean, you've got the defense guy. What's his name? I heard somebody call him the Heg fellow.
Yeah, the alcoholic.
What's his Heg said? Making it very clear that America right now, and I'm not casting a judgment on this. He's saying, right, Europe, we've got our own shit to deal with right now. So you do you, we'll do us, and never should we meet. And I'm just wondering, I mean, I wonder what would have happened after 9/11, but 9/11. But anyway, where does that leave America, Steve? What do you reckon? Does America need anybody? Really? Does it? Really?
In Sun Tzu's Art of the War, right? So if you look at it in that perspective, you make your the enemy of my enemy is my friend type of thing. So the Putin thing, he and Putin are going to have a love fest over the Ukraine. They forgot to invite the Ukraine. That was in the FT this morning. I thought that was pretty good. We're going to talk about peace, about your country, but you don't get to come. Don't worry about it. We're going to divide it up like Churchill did the Middle East with a napkin. You'll be fine. So the problem is, does America need any other countries? Unfortunately, the way that we went from this, before the 1980s, where we built everything, now we import everything. Yes, we actually do, because either that or the Don is going to have to make America great again bullshit. America's already good or great, but you have to make manufacturing good. You have to make wages good. There's a whole bunch of shit, because all he's doing is he's turning us into 1930 Hoover, who was an isolationist. And before Hoover, you had Taft, who was an isolationist. I mean, and we did fine. But the problem with this is is that if that's what if your thought is like, I'm going to cozy up to Putin in China and blah, 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 so they never attack us. Okay. But you have all these allies like the UAE and Saudi Arabia, and just so, and people may forget, they have something called oil. And then Venezuela has oil, Trinidad and Tobago has oil, Canada has oil. So, there's all these things that we need because we don't do it here anymore. So if we're going to tell the whole world to piss off, then we better go back to Nikola Tesla's free energy towers and start doing free energy around the United States. Because in 5 years, we're going to look like, 1960 East Germany. And the problem is that because history repeats itself, and what they're causing is a rise in fascism and a rise of this and a rise of that. And the people that, because they don't read books, are too stupid to see it, that isolationist mentality doesn't do good on a planet that is interconnected in milliseconds, where you have to remember in the 30s, 40s, 50s, even in the 60s, we weren't connected. Like, if you said something, you didn't wait till the 6 or the 7 o'clock news for Walter Cronkite to come on and go, and this is what happened today. And we're like, yay. Now, you get news alerts on your phone. It pops up on this. So it's instantaneous. So no, I don't think, does America need other countries? Yes. Can America avoid itself of other countries? Probably. It's going to take 10 years, and it's going to have to take a different mindset. Having the Three Musketeers, or the Three Stooges, if you will, a Doge, think they're going to clean it up, isn't the mindset, because they're not preparing America for anything. All they're trying to do is line their pockets. So there's a difference. Now, if we're planning on going to Mars, apparently, and the moon, and live there, okay. But you still have to prepare the people for it. So no, I think this is going the way, unfortunately. If you look back at the 1930s, this is going the same way that went, is how this is going to go. And I think people are just, I don't want to say too dumb or too blind to see it. They just don't want to believe it, that it can never happen again. But it's all there.
What I find interesting is look at the numbers, and it's almost a 50-50 thing. You've got half the population who, I'm not saying they're all, we've had this discussion, they're not all massive fans of Trump, but they just feel that he suits their purposes better.
Right.
And then obviously fall into that camp. And then you've got the other folks who take a different view. But it seems like those two views are shifting further and further apart. There's no sense of, they don't seem to be closely aligned. There seems to be a massive schism forming between the two sides. Do you think is that just an extreme view? Do you think that's, because I've heard of families having arguments, Thanksgiving dinners being disrupted. Is that BS? Is that happening? Or is that just media stirring up crap that isn't necessarily there?
Here's what's funny. I'm sure it happens, and we live in a society, and we talked about a bunch of pussies. Back when I was a kid in the 60s, and I'm just talking in the year 60, and even in the 70s and 80s at Thanksgiving, if you had a political discussion or a dialogue, exchange of ideas, and you go, oh, I don't like your Ken, I don't like yours, and they go, blah, 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 blah. When it's all said and done, we still ate dinner. Apparently today, because of Trump, families are like, oh, I'm never talking to you again. Well, who cares? It's just the problem we have is that we don't teach anybody. And I know we go back on this, but we don't teach anybody anything anymore. Like, in the 80s, I think we started to make kids dumber. And because of that, this is what you have. There's no discipline. People are dumber. They don't know. And that's a problem. So you can't have a civil conversation about Donald Trump, Putin, Missile Boy, none of it, because people go, oh my God, Papa. No, you can't even have a civil conversation about the MOUSC, LGBTQ, whatever, all their letters anymore, because God forbid. Yeah, I mean, listen, and to a point, like some of the things you did, like you're either born a male or a female. I'm good with that. I got that. All right. I don't need to figure out who you are when I meet you. It's either you're male or female. I'm good. And now if you're gay, I don't care. It means you're happy, and I don't care. I mean, like I have gay friends, male, female, don't give a shit. So I'm good with all that. The problem I have is when you start the government starts dictating to you, oh, you can't do this, meaning like a woman's right to have a baby or this or that. So, and then you look at, if you will, the pot calling the kettle black, which is the gentleman in the White House going, you can't, we're going to tell you that's breaking the law. Well, don't be rude or anything, pal, but let's go through your list. So that's a problem when you're trying to be a demigod, but you're flawed and everybody knows your flaws. It's just overlooking it. It's like the emperor's new coat. And that's kind of, I think, where we are as a country. You know, I don't hear people, unless you watch Bloomberg or you Daily Show with Jon Stewart or something, you don't hear real people having real discussion about it. Like I see Republicans and Democrats coming on Bloomberg and discussing about it. Even some Republicans now are like, whoa, you know, he's getting a little out there. And talk about the judicial system having to curtail him back. And a lot of them are saying he's just testing the system to see what he can get away with. That's a problem.
I think, Steve, for me, as a sort of an insider, sort of an outsider,
Sure.
who I think I've got a fairly objective view of what America is. And I've always said to you, I've never thought of it as a country. I thought of it as a concept, as an ideal. And I've always, I don't know if admiration is the right word, but I've respected what America is about.
Okay.
I always have. But it's not the people. Not at all. It's the entire thing. It's
the concept.
Yeah, you can't just say, well, I respect that country and everybody in it. That's impossible. You don't know that. You don't know the people that well. And as I said, I've traveled to many states, and yeah, morons, geniuses, are the same way. What do you do? But I think what is quite I'm not going to use any emotional words because I don't want to make this emotional, but I think what I find quite let's just say interesting is how the country suddenly seems to have taken. Would you say this is an extreme path? And then if it isn't if it is an extreme path the country is now taking, because it does seem to be quite, I mean, it's keeping the media people really busier than normal. And then you have to say, why is that? Where is this anger? Where is this hatred coming from? Because America is part of the world. It's a country in the world. We all, breathe the same oxygen. What has happened to ordinary people there? And I'm not saying everybody, just the ones who are acting crazy. Why are they suddenly feel that? Why is there this lashing out that you see? So, for instance, if you look, comments online are not a great judge. You always get the whack jobs. But it is interesting. Someone will raise a point, and someone will say something like, "Oh, we saved you in World War II," and I am so sick and tired of hearing that. To be honest with you, World War II, just for the record, was a team effort. Nobody singularly saved anybody. And this is why we have the word allies and alliances. No one, we're all team members. But there's this view that one country saved everybody else. And it is historically inaccurate. And it is also quite dangerous because it suggests that everybody should be grateful to our Lord and Savior, the United States, which is not what I believe Americans were 60, 70 years ago at all. But it seems like there's this feeling like we saved everybody. Well, this is just not true. We are number one. Not true again, but why do you have to be? We don't need you. We're going to do this. And someone raises a point, and instead of going, okay, Stephen, I hear you. Let's look at that. Let's discuss it. It's, no, well, then bugger off. Like the whole thing, Canada's interesting because I know Canada I know they've done nothing. They don't. What's it? 0.2% of all the fentanyl comes from Canada. Right. And we discussed that a lot of those were Americans returning from Canada. So whatever. But let's just say they were all Canadians. It's 0.2%, and it's been used as a reason for some of these tariffs, which are now gone temporarily. They could come back, but it's like one guy in the room has become a bully, and I'm going, why? Why would you bully somebody? I'm just going to pick on Canada, for instance. What is it about Canada? What is the beef that Trump has with Canada? Or is it more about him and less to do with Canada? What is he trying to do? Because he's going to affect a lot of people. And you don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that. You don't have to read a great number of economic books to know that. And these facts are quite easy to find out. You can ask people, not the guy cuts your hair, please, but proper people. Ask economists, talk to people, business people, importers, exporters, tradespeople. Talk to them if you want to find out how this is going to affect people. I've seen comments or fights on, unfortunately, social media where you'll have a bloke who clearly knows nothing about trade telling a guy who does trade that he doesn't know what he's talking about. And I'm going, where does this entitled bullshit arrogance come from? I wouldn't presume to know how trade works because I'm not an importer and exporter.
Right.
But I will listen to someone who does that. And they've all said, for example, these tariffs which have now gone are not, they're pretty pointless. They're not going to help anybody, and they will lead to problems. You're just alienating your mates. Why is he, what I don't understand is if you don't like, you mentioned that the transgender thing. All right, so you're happy, for example, with the fact that he is like, you're male or female. Okay.
Right.
All right. But how do we get from that to we're pulling out of every health organization because we don't want people to tell us what to do? Because there's the sense of nobody must tell us what to do because we're the best and we're the greatest and we're the. It's really quite difficult to engage with a nation that feels that way about everyone else.
Right.
And I'm just. I know that's not how a lot of people they think. I know that, so I'm not judging the country based on
apparently 80 some odd million people do think like that because they're the ones who won the popular vote.
But I just think that they maybe voted because they were concerned about other things, maybe the transgender issues we've discussed.
Right.
But you don't get what's the old saying? If you mess with the bull, you get the horns, whatever.
Yep.
So I think they wanted one part of the solution and then they got the whole package. And it's quite a package they're getting. And it just looks like 3-4 weeks into it, it's not a case of we're going to fix things. It's a case of we're going to beat everybody up who doesn't like us or we think that doesn't like us or who said bad things about us. And I go, Jesus, that's what you do on a high school playground. It's not the way you run or manage or administer the largest economy on the face of the planet. You should be more adult than that. Yes, you may not like the fact that you maybe have a trade deficit or a surplus with someone, and you sit down and you talk about it like adults. You don't grab a great big, well in the US it's called a Sharpie, here it's called a Cokie, but a big fat pen, a big board, and you scribble your name all over it, and you make this big media fanfare. Stop being such a showman and actually just do your job. I've always said, if he just stopped being so damn obsessed with media, which apparently he loves and hates, and just did his. I mean, I'm not saying he hasn't got to. There's some good ideas. I've heard some good things. He's not all bad. You mentioned one. You know,
he's got a lot that are good. It's just that the bad outweigh the good.
Why don't you just get into an office, be a proper businessman, leave all the fanfare to your staff and your social media managers and your White House press secretary. Let them do that. Put them on TV, and you go and be a president and stop. If you look at leaders from around the world, they don't. One or two do, but generally they lead. They're working in an office. They're chatting. They don't sit there on phones and sit in front of TV cameras and make great fanfare of the fact they're taking a dump or signing a piece of paper or getting on a plane or they've made some incredible discovery or they're going to launch some amazing thing which is coming next week, which never does. Now, as I say, I don't know the man. I can't make any personal judgment. I don't know him. I don't. I'm just saying there have been some things. I just wish he would do more of the leader thing and then less of the fanfare thing, and then
Yeah.
maybe cool heads would prevail. But right now, it's just like he's in the duck pond and he's splashing around the water, and the birds are flying everywhere, and he likes that. He really seems to like that. And I'm just wondering what people think. How is this? What is the plus? What
There's
is
no
the
plus, but here's the funny thing.
You know that, but I'm trying to imagine you're someone that you wanted that.
Yeah.
You asked for that. What did you think you were going to get?
Right.
Is this good? I mean, some people are very happy about what he's doing. They're like, yeah, get rid of the swamp and whatever. And I'm going, okay, everybody relax. Let's hear what that person has to say.
Right.
Are they happy about where things are going? And try to be an adult in terms of your assessment of what's going on. Don't be reactionary. Leave the emotion out of it. Just look at the facts. And if there is indeed a positive path for the country, then I, and hopefully you and anybody else would go, all right, I concede, not seeing the big picture. I just think if you look at press conferences that leaders around the world have given, reflecting on what he's done, no one, there isn't one leader around the world that is, I'm sorry, you've got the chap from Argentina, and you've got
Putin,
the Italian.
You've got Israel, you got Netanyahu, Putin, and you've got
Venezuela. I watched Benjamin Netanyahu sitting there with Trump in the White House. And I watched his face. I watched how he was looking. And I'm not saying he was plus or minus, but he looked a little gobsmacked. It was like,
when he heard that Gaza was becoming a
resort. And I'm not sure if he was happy or surprised, but with a few notable exceptions. And I'm not going to weigh into the Middle East thing because I don't know anything about it. That's it.
It's in the Middle East, by the way. Yeah.
Everyone is going, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
Can we get it? We just want someone less that. That's all I'm saying. But maybe they're all dumb and maybe he's trained us. I don't know. Tell me, Steve.
Well, part of the problem is that the Democrats didn't offer any solutions. They just kept the same bullshit up, right? They didn't say anything on trade. They kept this, if you want to be a male or female or a pig or a cat or a dog, bullshit.
Right.
So that's not a government's choice. Full stop. Like if I'm president, listen, you're either a male or a female now. If you want as a male dress up as a woman or a woman dress as, I don't give a shit. Right. But we're not going to make 47 different categories. That I agree with. You're male or female. If you want to do something, I don't care. And you want me to address you as, Darla, wonderful. Just make sure. But if you're a boy and I call you by your name and you get mad at me, you know what? Fuck you. So to that, I'm good with that. You're gay. Don't care. Sleep with whoever you want to sleep with. Don't care. The Democrats are trying to get into every little, like if you're 12 years old and you think you should be a girl, what the fuck are you talking about? They also had no plan for the economy. They had no plan for anything. And now when you listen to the Democrats talk, they still have no plan. Chuck Schumacher, talks about tariffs, and he's like, "Oh, the avocados are going to cost more." Hey, Chuck, come up with a plan and shut the fuck up. There's a guy named Goodwin out of New York. He's like, "We need Republicans to do the right thing." Bullshit. What you need is a strong leader, because deep down inside, America is nothing more than U.S. football. We are a land acquisition conquer game. That is the mentality of the 300 million people here. It's like we want more, we want more, we want more. And this guy with a tan can give us more. Good, bad, or indifferent how he does it, but he gives us more. He gives us that power and strength, blah, 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 blah. The Democrats literally look like Nathan Lane. I love you, Nathan. I'm sorry that I'm using you here, but Nathan Lane in Birdcage. That's what the Democrats look like. Yeah, Nathan. They look like Nathan Lane in Birdcage, and they look at that and go, well, "We're America. We're strong. We're like Arnold Schwarzenegger strong, and we're this and that. We're not Nathan Lane in the Birdcage." In the movies, it's great, and I think that's part of the issue. They look at the Democrats as a bunch of pansies, and so far, they are. And that is a bad thing.
Okay, first of all, Stephen, I've got to do this because I saw this the other day. It was somebody was going, Chuck Schumer. This is my Chuck Schumer.
Yes, that's Chuck Schumer.
This is the guac. This is an avocado, and this is where you get guacamole from, and it comes from Mexico. You've seen that, all right? Anyway, so I had to do that because I had this big glasses there. Yeah, so it's just a question of zero leadership. There's no leadership.
And then Trump is a leader. For that or indifferent, you said it. You've seen it. We've seen him here since the 80s. You see what he does. You saw how good he did Atlantic City. Oh, it was the best. I'm sure Gaza will go that route. Anyway, but he's a leader.
I'm going to say this because I really don't want to jump into a red or a blue category because I don't want to do that. I want to engage everybody when I talk. So my feeling is this. I mean, I've got one of my best mates lives in a town there in Connecticut, and he adores Donald Trump. He does.
Okay.
And it's extraordinary what he attributes to the man. And I just think to myself, look, I wouldn't blame Donald for this because, as I've said before, he has never changed.
Right.
There is stuff all over the internet. He is the same guy. So he's actually the most consistent feature of this whole whatever it is. Yeah. He's always been a guy who does his own thing, jumps up. He is. If you just take out all the implications, it's quite interesting the way he just kind of walks and does what he wants. Yeah. And I think that's appealing to people. It's got nothing to do with facts. It's got to do with the fact you've got a guy there who doesn't make excuses. He doesn't ask permission. He doesn't. There's no.
Well, he does make excuses. He does make excuses.
Well, yeah, but not from his.
He doesn't ask permission, right?
He calls it something else. In his mind, he is the greatest. He's perfect. But then the people buy into that, and I think, you know what? Let me say this. A while ago, I started writing a book, and I'm still doing it. And one of the authors I studied was a guy called Lee Chudd, who wrote the Reacher series. That actually did his whole course, and he talks about plots and all the stuff of how you get whatever. But the one thing he did mention is how stories evolved. How did we start? Where did stories come from? When was the first book published? Blah blah blah. And he obviously made a study of that, and he went back in time, caves, whatever, blah blah blah, and he determined that stories were a way. Well, first of all, it was a way to escape. It was a way of managing. It was a way of dealing with stuff. But one of the first storylines, and the first protagonists that was successful was the savior complex. People love a hero. They love a savior. I mean, you've got your views on religion, which you've spoken about. We can probably talk some more. But there is something to be said, for the need that human beings feel. We need a hero. We're holding out for a hero, like Bonnie Tyler said. We want people love the idea of a savior, someone who's going to come in and sort everything out, make us great, give us jobs, fix everything, make the male and the female the thing. Whatever, and we're all going to be safe, and everything's going to be beautiful, and it's going to be utopia. But we have this idea that there's a singular person, a savior that's going to do that to us, and it's one of the most successful protagonists concepts in writing. I mean, Jack Reacher is a savior, and you go on and on and on. There's characters throughout history, heroes that have done well. We love those stories. We love the hero story. And why would it be any different with the way we select our leaders? We want someone to come in,
Superman,
and just Superman, exactly.
And you want Superman, and so Donnie fix that right now.
This is what it is. So people, this is many times. It's not about facts. It's about it makes me feel better. That's what we want. We choose someone that is addressing all the things. like, I want it. What's this transgender thing? What's this?
Right.
All the people coming and taking whatever basic things. And I've always said the man totally always staff or all of them completely. They understand what people want, what they want to hear.
Yeah.
You could argue that he's employed a similar tactic in business. I'm sure there's lots of business people, lawyers, whatever, ministers, whatever. You tell people what they want to hear, and that makes them like you and gravitate to you, listen to what you want, what you have to say, and they go, if they think that you're listening to them, you're going to come across as credible and helpful. And I think that's part of the problem. And I don't know how you get people out of that and say, right, listen, this is kids fiction. All right.
Yeah.
This is a story. When you select someone to run a whatever 20, I don't know what the value of the US economy is like. Is it $20 trillion? 21? I don't know.
$6.56 this morning. Yeah. So
no.
With all our debt and everything, that's like $6.50. So yeah.
All right. If you're going to select someone, audition, because you're interviewing, you are the boss. You actually,
the American public forgets that they are the boss. They forget that the politicians work for us.
Stephen, they forget it here too. They forget it all around the world. People forget that the voter, that the public is the boss. Unless you're in certain other countries, if you're in a democracy, you are the ones that interview or audition your choice of leader. And that's why I don't necessarily blame the man, because he is talking a good game. He is doing what he needs to do to get the position. It's up to people to do to know what it is they're hiring. And yes, they did hire him. And then, of course, the suggestion is, did they do their homework properly? Did they understand? Look, it's the same thing with Brexit. It's the same thing with how we chose leaders here. In this country, you have leaders that they pitch things like equality and transformation and change. But what they're really doing is putting money in their back pocket. But in order to do the money in the back pocket thing, they've got to pitch themselves into a leadership position. They've got to put themselves in a position of power. They're not going to say actually what they're going to do. They're going to tell people what they think they're going to do.
But to that point, though, what will happen here? We have midterm elections coming up. So let's just say the jury's still out on how the public will perceive Donnie and his friends. So when the midterm elections come, if they think they're doing a good job and the economy's doing better and whatever, or an isolation company or whatever, then the Republicans will sweep everything. However, if everybody is fed up and unfortunately, and this is not red or blue, it's just a statement, in whatever party, whether you're an independent, a Democrat, a socialist, a communist, whatever runs against the Republican, they're gonna be, that's better than this. But in 4 years, there's a senator that says, "Oh, Donnie should run a third term." If the Democrats don't come up with something to say, "Here's what we're going to do to, if you will, to make America great again, or to bring democracy back," wherever they want their slogan to be, then yes, you will have a Donald Trump type of person. Like JD Vance made a statement, and I forgot I read the statement, and I like every commentator from Bloomberg to this, even we're all saying that's wrong. Like your statement is inherently wrong. It's illegal. You cannot do that.
I know what it is. I know what the statement was roughly. I'm paraphrasing, but he implied that a judge authority to tell basically the government and generals what to do, and it was made clear that is literally what the judiciary is supposed to do. It is actually. My understanding is it's built into the Constitution. That is the point of the judiciary right there. And he and the person that made the comment, I can't remember who it was, they said, but you went to law school. You should know that.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know what the point, what the purpose of the judiciary is. You cannot have an untethered, unrestrained administration. Are you insane? This is what we've left behind. This is why there is a constitution. You have to have those checks and balances. Otherwise, try to imagine that the team you didn't vote for, the Democrats, are in office and they're doing that to you. So in order to stop that, you need a balance. And the thing is, a lot of these judges that were restraining the policies of the new administration, these are Reagan judges. They were appointed by Republican presidents, Bush, Reagan. They are there, but they are not. They have no business pulling any political punches at all. It is what they call, what was the word? It's black and white law. There's no interpretation, none, zero. If this happens, that happens. You can't do this. That's what we do. Bang, bang, bang. It's what was described as black and white law. That's it. It's, in fact, they call it, black letter law. I think that was the right word. Black letter law. There is no interpretation. It is not ambiguous. You may not do this. Things like the birthright thing. I understand why he would do it. I understand why voters would want him to do it. But I mean, hey, as what was his name? Tim. Oh God, he was married to Susan Sarandon, the big guy, Tim Burton. Tim Burton.
Tim Burton. Okay.
Sure. Tim Burton, very tall chap, very good actor. He was with Martin Lawrence in Bad Day Off. Anyway, or One Day Off. Yeah. He was in some news show, and he said, excuse my French or my English or whatever. He says, "Yeah, I'd like to fuck Scarlett Johansson, but hey, we don't get what we want. We don't all get what we want. It's not about just getting what you want."
Right.
I mean, we all want stuff, and we throw things around. But that's why you're supposed to have adults in the room, otherwise known as, well, I was about to say presidents, but you know what I mean. You can't have a guy sitting there in the White House who is on the same mental level as everybody else. He can't be. He can't be. Yeah, otherwise, it's the lunatics running the asylum, which I think maybe some people is happening. Again, that's if that's what people want, and if lunacy works for the economy, and everybody gets cheaper eggs, and the war in Ukraine goes away, and everybody has plastic straws, and they're all happy with it. Well, then I guess they're happy.
Well, just so we're clear, the plastic straw thing, I'm 100% for. That's I'm okay with that one. I don't like the paper straw. Look, dissolve in your mouth. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, they've got to work on that. By the way, we've got something in this country. I stuck a rusk in my mouth.
There you go, you little rescue.
Thank you very much. Did you see what I did there? Elon Rusk.
I did. Yeah, I got it.
Because I wanted to say that. We have. I don't know where they get the straws from, but they're like plastic straws.
Yeah.
I need to do some homework on this. But a lot of stores that sell them, they're plastic straws, but they're biodegradable. So they do the same thing, ridiculous paper straws. And I believe the plastic comes from some island in the Indian Ocean somewhere. I could be making this crap up, but I read it somewhere. It doesn't quite look like a normal straw, but it holds its own. It holds its own. And when you finish with it, you can throw it away in the trash, and it'll break down. It won't stay. It won't remain as a straw.
Well,
apparently.
What I think, and I'm going to blame the turtles.
I
think the turtles, parents, are the ones we need to blame for this plastic straw problem, is because they're just not teaching their kids not to eat the plastic straws. So I don't understand what the problem is there. It's very simple. You teach your kid not to do that. They don't do that. There you go.
Don't eat the straws. I agree. I am just.
Here's something very funny, which you'll get a kick out of. Donald Trump a couple of days ago said, whoever did this terrible tariff idea with Canada and was going through this long diatribe. I was watching the news conference, and then if you go back to 2018, he did it. And so he's the one who made the terrible deal in 2018. And I'm thinking,
he was the guy.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. He doesn't take fault in what he does. And he just blames it on, even though he did it, if he ran over somebody driving a car, he would be like, "Oh, the steering was no good. The car was no good. The person jumped out." Right. So I get a kick out of it, but like I said, the jury's still out. I mean, one of the guys on Bloomberg was saying, their political analyst was like, "Listen, he's going to sign 50,000 of these executive orders. The judicial system's going to knock down 90% of them. There's another 10% that will make it, and out of that, there'll be 5% that actually are going to succeed." So I think we have to see. So I'm on the fence right now, because some of the stuff he's doing, I'm like, okay, Donna, you're doing good, but being an isolation country, not good. Threatening to tariff so people put money in our country. Okay, I get what you're doing. It's kind of like high stake blackmail. I'm good with that, kind of, but you really have to then do something. You know what I mean? It's like, there's got to, at this time next year, we should be in, Shangri-La. And if we're not, then that will be bad.
I just want to say a few things quickly, and then I have to wrap it up because I got to go.
Okay.
But let me just say that
Yes.
there's a couple of things though that are quantifiably wrong and
Right.
really need to be addressed. And the thing is, like, I've heard a lot of comments where people say, "Well, all the other countries don't pay their fair share in terms of NATO," and I go,
Right.
I just want to clarify this. Yes, there is certain money that is paid by the US to NATO.
Right.
That's true. And in fact, let's just say they pay all of it. But in terms of defense spending, none of that goes to NATO. That goes to the country itself.
Yeah.
And I do agree. There was a
You muted yourself. There you go.
There we go.
You-
We're back.
There you go.
All
They're
right.
back. Look at you. You're muted again.
Hang on. There we go.
I guess
All right.
the censors in Africa
Well, I think
to
I'm
talk about this.
be too far away. All right. So, but this is going to sound weird. He did say that countries should.
Muted. You're muted. Oh, you're still muted. There you go.
Really, somebody really.
Not muted again. Well, the South African Censor Bureau doesn't want Roll to talk about NATO. So I don't know what to tell you guys. So no, you're still muted. Now there you are. Try again. Nope, now you're muted. I think that may be the end of the show, folks. If he can't get himself to speak, yeah, you're still muted.
How about now?
Now you're not muted. Now you're muted. Live. No, you're muted. Just saying. No, you're still muted. Yeah, you're still muted. I guess he can't talk about NATO, folks. What's the next subject you want to talk about? Maybe you get unmuted. You're still muted, big guy. I hate to tell you that. So for all you people that are listening on the podcast, there we go. Let's see if Roll can do it now. Try it now.
Wow.
There you go. You're here now. Now you're muted again.
That's. Hang on. I don't know what's going on, Steve. Right. Try that.
There you go. Now you're not.
How's that?
That's so far so good.
All right. Okay. Maybe it's a volume thing. I do apologize.
That's okay. We're on NATO.
So what I wanted to say was, I think I said I agreed with Trump, and then it got crazy. The Democrat censoring. No, I do. I think the countries do. No point you being an ally if you're not in a position, if you haven't got a strong defense of your own. I get that. I get that principle. But I just want to clarify that NATO, it was my understanding that the US founded NATO. Was certainly a founding member.
Right.
And it's of, to be blunt, it is of immense strategic value to the US, not the other countries, to the US. I happen to know off the top of my head that, funnily enough, even though Japan is not a NATO member, I think that's where the biggest US deployment is. As far as I know, off the top of my head, I know there's a big deployment in Japan, Germany, and bases around the world. But this is of strategic value to the US. And I've heard people comment and say, oh, this is good for these nations. It's got nothing to do with, this doesn't benefit Germany. This benefits the US. Yes, it's nice if your friends are in town. But this is all part of a, and I don't disagree with this, by the way, to maintain a global influence and keep an eye on what's going on. And let's not forget that a lot of the Middle East, shall we say, tours, when things didn't go well, would they go for treatment, and they'd go to Germany. It was there. It was convenient. For example, this is not a bad thing. Alliances are a good thing. They are very, very good. That's the one I wanted to say. What was the other one? Oh, the whole thing with the health thing is interesting because my daughter is involved in medical research. And I don't know if I mentioned this to you on the podcast last time. She does a lot of work for the US, not for this country, for the US.
Oh, you told me. Yes, with the USAID for research for the US. Yep.
So this doesn't affect a single person in this country. It affects Americans who will pay more because the research has to be done, and it'll be done by someone who will charge more because this place is cheap. And the final thing I wanted to say was, it's interesting that he brought up, I mean, Don's had quite a boner for South Africa the last week or so. I know he's got Elon chewing his ear about being bullied when he grew up in South Africa, so maybe that's got something to do with it. I've heard stories. I don't know if that's true. He seems to have done okay. He got over it. He made some money, which is good. But I don't know if that's it. I'm not sure why. I was actually, because it's been all over the news here, as you can imagine. People are like, what is this sudden obsession he has with you would imagine that something has just changed. Literally nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. I found out more since last chat. The Land Expropriation Act was signed into law, and they've expropriated nothing. It's just designed as a tool to utilize land, public land, where people have abandoned it. There's a lot of abandoned land in this country, a lot, believe it or not. It's just abandoned. And they want to be able to push through, cut through red tape, and utilize that land for whatever. And if they can find the person, they'll give them some money. But in the extreme cases where that's not possible, the person's, I don't know, immigrated to the US, hello, Elon, and they can't get hold of him. In order to move things along, they want the legal route to get that done. That's my understanding. I'm not a lawyer, but this is what I want. But Trump has mentioned that they're expropriating farms. Well, that hasn't happened. They're not interested in farms. Farms are of absolutely no use. I'm sure it tracks politically. Sure.
Yes.
There are some people jumping around here. Oh, we must take away the farm. But it hasn't happened. And it's certainly not legal. And it's not something the majority of anybody would be in favor of. To what end? But the most extraordinary thing has happened since he's attacked this country. A lot of political opponents have all been together. Interesting. It's nothing like a common enemy to unite a country. And even Afrikaners, I've heard, who he offered a political refugee status to, they're going, no, we are African. It's literally in the name. Afrikaans, African. They were Dutch or whatever settlers of all sorts of flavors, and they consider themselves African. They are more African than I will ever be. This is their homeland. And now someone's saying, you got to get out of there and come and forget everything and join us in utopia. And they're going, no. But you didn't ask us. You didn't chat with us. I'm not saying that everything that he said is wrong, and I'm not saying any of it is right. But what would have been really helpful, and I said before, is a little bit more chatting, a little chatting with the people, the leaders and people that know, and less chatting on media about horrible things are happening there. They're not. Other horrible things are happening, sure. With a murder, we've got a high murder rate. We've got one of the highest rape rates. That's terrible. That's an issue. But the land thing is, land is the weirdest thing. You can't eat land. It doesn't help anybody. Really, employment is more important. Training, education. And I just thought, if we've had this discussion as well. I said when the rest of the world lobbied and protested against apartheid. Fantastic.
Mhm.
Let's get the new government in. Let's get the apartheid government out. No arguments. Absolutely.
Right.
But you need to stick around. You need to
Yeah,
stick around because
yeah.
now the field is bare. Now you got to
Yeah.
help build. If you are going to be a part of the fight, if you're going to be part of the revolution, then you have a responsibility. You don't have to, obviously, but it will be
Well, look what we
prudent
did
if
in
you stick around.
Afghanistan.
Because if you don't stick around, this is what happens. If you don't stick around, anything can come in its place. You need to look. If you've stuck your nose in, now you need to stick around and make sure that whatever is there after is something you can work with. You have that duty. I mean, off the top of my head, I mean, look what happened in Afghanistan. You know, if you're going to change a government, you got to stick around, or don't get involved at all. But if you get involved,
Afghanistan, Vietnam, you know.
So I'm just saying, if you get involved, and that's fine. One could argue that being the only superpower in the world, maybe there's a responsibility. I'm not saying America has to. It would be nice if it did. Got lots of resources, some nice stuff. Get involved. Nice hotels. You can get leaders together. I don't know. Or don't get involved. But if you do get involved, if you go to someone's house and you get between a husband and wife who are having a bit of a domestic, and you say, guys, you need to stick around and make sure that they have a glass of wine and relax. You need to stay. You need to make sure everything is cool. Because if you just break up the fight and leave, that solves nothing. You haven't solved anything. You haven't fixed anything. And then the fight really happens when you leave. Right? So I'm saying that's kind of what happened in this country. We got a lot of folk that weren't necessarily qualified to be in leadership positions. And they probably, I mean, I wouldn't have been able to do it. I wasn't qualified, but needed some training, some guidance, assistance, working with. So it's a bit rich to come later, 30 years after the fact, and say, oh, we don't like what's going on there. Where the hell were you? Why didn't you, I mean, really get involved? Not now, then in 1994, then stick around 10, 15 years, help.
It's like the dad that leaves when you're born and shows up when you're 40 and goes, hey, how you doing? You're like, what the fuck? Who are you?
Yeah. So the thing is, the leaders that are in, this is the problem. I've heard this. I don't necessarily agree with what this ANC government have done, but, and I'm not a supporter. I'm a DA guy, I told you. But there's no denying that during the apartheid years, they got very cozy with Russia. Very. The Soviet Union was very involved with recruitment and training of ANC members, ostensibly to build a future relationship. And whatever you may think of ANC or the Russians or whatever, they had a bond, a relationship. So for a lot of people from that political affiliation, they go, well, those were our friends. And no one's going to tell us who we can be friends with. And you go, fair point. Probably one could argue the quality of your friends, but we can't argue the fact that you made those friends. That's our problem. What we think of those friends is our problem. It's not their problem. You with me? So for a lot of people in that political camp, they see that as an intrusion in the way they conduct their friendships. And they wouldn't want to do that to anybody else, and they wouldn't want somebody. And the more you fiddle with it, the closer you push those groups together. That's what I'm saying. If you don't like the fact, or if you've got this idea, and I've heard Rubio saying this, is Marco Rubio, who somehow seems to be a massive expert of what South Africa is doing. Anyway, Marco, no. Come and visit. Come to the G20, join, be a part of the conversation. Don't not come and then throw accusations across the oceans. That's not helpful. That isn't.
But that goes back.
Helpful.
That goes back to the original part. Does America really need any other countries?
Well, I'm asking that. Does
full circle? Yeah, does it? It's a full circle. That's why it's a very interesting. And that kind of brings it full circle. Does it? Not really. We just throw shit out there and don't care. Let you guys sort it out.
Just to be clear, I'm not. I don't want to give. It's important for me not to say that I'm with this group or that group. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying Russia good or bad. I'm not saying that.
Right.
But what I am saying is, if you tell someone they can't be friends with Russia, for example, they're going to go, screw you.
Friends. Yeah.
We're going to go and get married now, for the love of God. Okay?
Yeah.
We weren't before, but now you bet your ass we will. So if you have some concerns over that relationship, then get involved with it. Don't talk. Don't tell people what they can't get in. Move closer, or shut up. Simple as that.
But that's a good way to end it.
That's it. To shut up.
It.
I agree. Wow.
Everybody, thanks for watching live.
Done.
We'll be back next Thursday. We'll rebroadcast later in the day. Don't forget, you can get the podcast and Little Parts Making Noises, wherever you get your podcast. And that's it. Mr. Vega, it's always good to see you. Thank you very much. And to the fans that watch, thank you. And to the fans that are watching it rebroadcasted, thank you. Don't forget to join next week. We can ask your questions live of Mr. Vega. And next week's guests, Donald Trump and Mark Rubio. So can't wait to see them here. Cheers, everybody.
Thank you so much for listening to this Roald Woods, Rob Vega, whatever the hell he wants to call himself, fellow. You know, this podcast thing, it makes him feel very important, and he's a difficult fellow as it is to deal with. So thank you so much for putting up with him, and do take care.